Tanzania is a gorgeous country. In my humble opinion, it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and it is renowned for its national parks. But Tanzania has 22 national parks, and it's impossible to visit them all in one trip. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about some of Tanzania's most important parks, as well as some hidden gems. Some are safari parks, others protect mountains and oceans, some have great cultural significance, and others simply offer a beautiful landscape. I'll tell you what makes each park unique and why you should or shouldn't visit it. And at the end of the video, I'll also tell you what my favorite Tanzanian National Park is. If you're new here, hi, my name is Laura, and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the world to places like Kenya, Pakistan, France, Switzerland, and of course Tanzania. I actually lived in Tanzania for a little while, so if you're looking for Tanzania travel content, this is definitely the channel for that. In this channel, I typically share travel vlogs, travel guides, and hidden gems, so if that sounds like something you like, make sure you subscribe, and now let's get into the video. So Tanzania's most well-known national park is definitely the Serengeti. The Serengeti has these iconic open savannas, and actually the word Serengeti means endless plains in the Maasai language, which is such a fitting name for this place. So the Serengeti is the traditional homeland of the Maasai people, and like I said, it has these very, very vast savannas that seem to stretch endlessly. And this park is really what comes to mind when you think of an African safari. The Serengeti is one of the world's top safari destinations, and you can find an abundance of wildlife species here. All of the iconic African animals that you can think of are animals that you can most likely find in the Serengeti. So animals like zebras, giraffes, elephants, wildebeest, buffaloes, gazelles, lots of different kinds of antelopes, lots of different kinds of birds, crocodiles, hippos. And what makes the Serengeti special is that it has a very high density of predators. So for example, lions in particular. The Serengeti is the national park, with the most lions in the world. It is home to about 3,000 lions, and it also has high densities of cheetahs and hyenas, which is really not common. Predators like lions, cheetahs, leopards, hyenas are actually pretty difficult to see in a lot of national parks, and they're not super easy to see while on safari. So this is definitely something very special about the Serengeti, but what makes the Serengeti so famous is its great wildebeest migration, which is a spectacle of millions and millions of wildebeest, zebras, and gazelles migrating from the Serengeti in Tanzania to the Masai Mara in Kenya and then back to the Serengeti. It is truly one of the world's most impressive wildlife spectacles. But the Serengeti isn't the only national park that has incredible wildlife sightings in Tanzania. So another one is Tarangire, which is renowned for its huge elephant herds which congregate around the Tarangire River during the dry seasons especially. And this park is also super rich in bird life. It has over 550 bird species, including some very, very colorful birds. So for example, while I was here, I managed to see a couple of Fisheries lovebirds, which is a really uncommon sighting, and I was very happy to see. And Tarangire is also very well known for its landscapes, which are dotted with majestic baobab trees. So baobabs are these huge trees which are thousands of years old, and they are hollow in the inside. So elephants actually make holes in the baobab trees to get water from the bark, and they make these entrances into the trees. So while you're on safari in the park, you can go inside a baobab tree, which is a truly unique experience. Pretty close to Tarangire is Lake Manyara National Park. So Lake Manyara is very famous for supposedly being the only national park in the world where you can see tree climbing lions. This is in fact its slogan, but it's actually not true. Lions climb trees pretty much anywhere that they exist. I've personally seen them climb trees in the Serengeti, for example. So while this isn't true, the park is actually amazing. It has huge ecological diversity, from the alkaline Lake Manyara to lots of woodlands. This is a very wooded area. So there's lots of baboons and large herbivores such as elephants and giraffes in the woodlands, as well as predators, of course, but they are a bit harder to find because of the abundance of vegetation. And you also have lots of aquatic bird species that flock to the lake. And also close to Lake Manyara is the Ngorongoro Conservation Area. So while technically the Ngorongoro isn't a national park, it's a national reserve, I believe. There's a little bit of a technicality there. I simply could not do a video about Tanzanian national parks and not include the Ngorongoro. So the Ngorongoro is one of Tanzania's top safari destinations, if not top one, and it is one of the more unique parks on this list. So the Ngorongoro used to be a massive volcano. It was the highest volcano in all of Africa, and one day it collapsed, creating this massive crater, this massive volcanic caldera, which is 600 meters high. So it is 600 meters from the rim of the crater to the bottom of the crater, and the crater is 22 kilometers in diameter. This created some really unique weather patterns and really unique conditions, which are like unique and exclusive to this crater, and this has made wildlife thrive. Like, there is no place on earth where wildlife thrives as much as it does in the Ngorongoro Crater, which has made it one of the best places to view African wildlife. You can find all sorts of animals here, and this place has a particularly dense population of ungulates, so wildebeest, zebras, Thompson's gazelles, Grant's gazelles, other kinds of antelopes. You can also find elephants, some really rare species such as African wild dogs and black rhinos, which you cannot find black rhinos just anywhere, like they are a very rare species. And you can also find lions, cheetahs, buffaloes, lots of things like that. The only animal which you cannot find in the Ngorongoro is giraffes. And the reason for that is that giraffes actually cannot descend the crater rim because it is too steep for them. So they just can't climb inside the crater, and that's why you can't find it there, which is a really cool fact, actually. The Ngorongoro is also a multi-ecosystem landscape, so you can find grasslands at the bottom of the crater, but then the crater rim has this really dense jungle, this really dense, misty forest, and it is such a beautiful and unique landscape. It almost looks like it was taken out of a fairy tale. I've never really seen a landscape like this anywhere else in the world. But the Ngorongoro Conservation Area extends a lot further than the actual crater, so you can also find the Ngorongoro Highlands, more grasslands outside of the crater, you can find more lands. And this is also the heartland of, like the homeland of the Maasai people, so you can also have cultural experiences with the Maasai, and this place has a lot of cultural significance for this community. And you can also find archaeological sites like the Olduvai Gorge. So moving on from the Ngorongoro, let's talk about Kilimanjaro National Park. So I mentioned that the Ngorongoro used to be a volcano, but it wasn't the only one in Tanzania actually. Because Tanzania is positioned in the East African Rift Valley, there were more volcanoes, and one of them was Mount Kilimanjaro, which dominates Kilimanjaro National Park. Kilimanjaro is currently the highest mountain in Africa, and it is also the tallest freestanding volcanic structure globally. So Mount Kilimanjaro is 5,895 meters or 19,341 feet above sea level, and because of its altitude, it has 5 distinct landscapes that are separated by altitude. So from lowest to highest level, it has bushland and cultivated area with lots of farmlands, villages, and also Chaga settlements. So the Chaga are the communities it's the tribe that lives along the lower areas of Mount Kilimanjaro, and they grow lots of crops like coffee, bananas, maize, and you can actually visit this area to do coffee tours. This is a part of the national park that has a lot of cultural significance as well. I actually went there to do a coffee tour, and I highly recommend it, and also to do a hike to Materuni Waterfalls, which is in the lower area of Mount Kilimanjaro as well. If you continue going up the mountain, you will find a lush tropical rainforest, followed by a moorland zone, an alpine desert zone, and an Arctic or summit zone. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is one of the top tourist attractions in Tanzania, which makes Kilimanjaro National Park one of Tanzania's most important and most famous national parks as well. So if you're into trekking or mountaineering, this is definitely a park that you should consider adding to your bucket list. If you're finding this video useful, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, and it's a little bit cheeky of me to ask, I know, I'm sorry, but I'm working really hard to try to grow my YouTube channel. I'm really trying and making an effort, so it would mean so much to me if you would like, comment, subscribe, especially subscribe. It helps me out so much more than you think. So it's just a little button that you have to click, and it truly means the world to me. So if you could go ahead and subscribe, that would be amazing. And if not, I understand, so no worries. And now let's get back into the video. So next up is Arusha National Park. So all of the national parks that I have been talking about so far have been in northern Tanzania and Arusha's as well. So Arusha is a very compact yet ecologically diverse park, and it actually includes the crater rim of Mount Meru, which is also an ancient volcano, and it is Tanzania's second highest mountain after Kilimanjaro, I believe. Arusha National Park is very well known for its walking safaris. So like the name suggests, this is a safari where instead of looking for animals on a car or on a jeep, you will walk and hike to try to see them. And it is a very unique experience because seeing wildlife while you're walking is very, very different from seeing wildlife while you're on a jeep. It is a much more humbling and raw experience. It is much, much more adventurous. You will see less wildlife because you cover less terrain, but it is an experience that I highly recommend. Some of my most special wildlife sightings have happened during walking safaris, not during jeep safaris. So if that's something you're interested in, then Arusha National Park is perfect for you. It is also an ideal park for short treks, a little bit of kayaking, forest walks, and day trips since it is pretty close to Arusha city. But anyways, moving on to a different region of the country. Let's go to Western Tanzania and talk about Gombe National Park. So Gombe is a compact rainforest on the shores of Lake Tanganyika, which I'm not going to lie is pretty inaccessible. So it is very expensive to get to, and it is quite difficult to get to. But it is 100% worth the effort because this is the globally famous site of Jane Goodall's chimpanzee research. And in Gombe, you can find these really, really dense forests that shelter habituated chimp families. So this is a place where you can go trekking for chimps, and it is one of the very few places in Tanzania where you can do that. So it is an amazing place to go to if you want to see wild chimpanzees and if you want to see primates in their own habitat. A bit further south, you can find the Mahale Mountains National Park, which is very similar to Gombe in a lot of ways. So it is also in the shores of Lake Tanganyika. So this is a breathtaking park where mountains, forests, and Lake Tanganyika converge, offering a really, really dramatic set of landscapes. This is also a place where you can find chimpanzees in the wild and where you can go trekking for chimpanzees. But there's lots of different activities that you can do here as well. So you can also hike to the misty peaks of Mahale Mountains, you can go bird watching, kayaking, or you can relax on the beaches of Lake Tanganyika. And similarly to Gombe, Mahale Mountains is pretty difficult to access and it can also be pretty expensive, but super worth it nonetheless. Moving on to central Tanzania, let's talk about Ruaha National Park, which is one of Tanzania's best yet most underrated national parks. So this is actually Tanzania's largest national park. It is absolutely massive, wild, and super remote with low tourist traffic. It has incredible landscape and also incredible wildlife. So you can find huge lion prides here, large elephant herds, leopards, cheetahs, African wild dogs, also some pretty rare antelopes such as sable antelopes, and it has over 570 bird species, making it a birdwatcher's paradise. Even though Ruaha is a great safari destination, not a whole lot of people will visit Ruaha. And I think that's because a lot of people just don't know about this place. So this is definitely a park that is on my radar, and I think it should be on your radar too. And also in central Tanzania, you've got the Udzungwa Mountains National Park. So Udzungwa Mountains is very famous for hiking and trekking, and some of its more famous trails are the Sanja Falls Trek and also longer hikes such as the Mwanihana Trail. So moving on to eastern Tanzania, let's talk about Saadani National Park. So Saadani is Tanzania's only coastal wildlife park, blending savanna and marine scenery where land animals roam near the ocean. Saadani is a pretty unique national park because it blends different kinds of landscapes. So here you can find grasslands, savanna, but also mangroves, estuaries, and coral reef zones. And you can find wildlife such as giraffes, hartebeests, reedbucks, buffalo, lions, and hyenas. While I wouldn't say that it's the best park for wildlife, it is definitely a very unique park that is worth visiting, and it is also accessible from Zanzibar. Nyerere National Park is a bit further to the south, and it is also one of Tanzania's largest national parks. Like, this park is roughly the size of Belgium, which is absolutely insane to me. And you can find the big 5 species here. So those are lions, leopards, rhinos, elephants, and buffaloes. And you can also find wild dogs, zebras, giraffes, elephants, all of the iconic African wildlife species, and it is definitely a great region for safari. And not too far away from Nyerere, you can find Mikumi National Park. So Mikumi is often compared to Serengeti, so I wouldn't say that it is the same as the Serengeti. Like, I do think the Serengeti is a better national park in my opinion, but it does have a similar savanna ecosystem, and it does have fewer crowds, I will give it that. So you can find a lot of wildlife. Like, this place has excellent wildlife viewing year round, so you can find elephants, buffaloes, giraffes, lions, leopards, wild dogs, sable antelope, which is rare, and hartebeest, and it also has over 400 bird species. So both Nyerere National Park and Mikumi National Park are accessible from Zanzibar. Lots of companies do day trips to these parks where you take a small charter flight and visit the park for a day and then go back to the island, which has made them very popular for people who want a beach holiday but want a little taste of safari. So if that's what you're looking for, Nyerere and Mikumi and also Saadani National Park are definitely for you. And speaking of Zanzibar, let's talk about the only national park on the island, which is Jozani National Park. Jozani is very well known for being the home to the red colobus monkey, which is an incredibly rare monkey species. You can only find it in the Zanzibar archipelago and nowhere else on Earth, and there's less than 5,000 monkeys in the wild, so it is an incredibly rare species, and I really encourage you to take up the opportunity to see these monkeys if you're in Zanzibar. But Jozani also has a really lush tropical forest and a really beautiful mangrove forest, which is actually the part that I liked the most about the park. Lastly, Tanzania doesn't have marine national parks, but it does have a few marine conservation areas, and Tanzania has some truly incredible underwater ecosystems. I'm talking coral reefs, lots and lots of fish species, sea turtles, dolphins, whales. You can also find mangrove forests, seagrass beds, and lots of other super cool things like that. It is also an incredible country to go snorkeling or scuba diving. I absolutely love snorkeling in Tanzania, and I definitely plan on getting my scuba diving license over there. So some notable conservation areas are Manai Bay Conservation Area in Zanzibar, Mafia Island Marine Park, where, by the way, you can actually see whale sharks over here, which is something that I really want to see as well, and the Dar es Salaam Marine Reserve System, which is pretty close to Tanzania's biggest city, Dar es Salaam. So if you're staying there, this might be a good option for you to visit. Anyways, before you leave, I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen that I think you might like. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video.